Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra Unit 2.4 Notes. Today we're talking about graphing horizontal and vertical lines. Our learning target today is to be able to graph horizontal and vertical lines. Yes, that's what we're doing today. So, know that there are three types of lines. So, the first one that we're going to talk about is a diagonal line. Okay? So a diagonal line, it can be positive, it can be negative. I'm using my straight edge right here. But there we go. It's got my little arrows on the sides. And I want to know, is this diagonal line a function? Yes or no? Well, remember, if it's going to be a function, it's got to pass the vertical line test. So you can just randomly draw lines if you want to, but when I go through and do that, it's a function. Okay, there are no 2 points on top of each other. Okay, the next one that we get to draw is a horizontal line. Okay, a horizontal line, if you remember, we had that was our y equals. Horizontal is like the horizon, so using my straight edge, whoop, there is my horizontal line. Okay, now once again, does it pass the vertical line test? Well, yeah, here I go, I'm drawing, no matter where I draw it. It only touches once, so is it a function? Yes. Okay, and remember, if you forget which one, we've got the H goes from side to side, which tells you it's horizontal, or you can think of the horizon, okay? Last one we're going to talk about is a vertical line. I'm looking at the V goes straight up and down. That tells me it's vertical. And I'm going to go, it doesn't matter where I draw this line, I'm going to go right here. So there's my vertical line. Now, here's the thing. If I'm drawing a vertical line for the vertical line test and I draw it right on top of it, it touches like, whoosh, there's like thousands of points there. Okay, so is a vertical line a function? The answer is no. Okay. All right, so graph the following lines by using a table of values. Then decide if it's a function or not. Okay, so you need to pay attention to if it's a y or an x and what do they tell you. So it's one variable. One variable means it's going to be horizontal or vertical. They tell me the y, so I'm just going to go in and plug in all of the y's. Now, when we graph, we want you to pick a negative, a positive, and 0. Okay, so my first point is negative 3, 2. Then I have 0, 2, and then 3, 2. And I can kind of see that now that this is a horizontal line. Okay, so my horizontal line, I'm using my straight edge. So I guys trying to get it straight into place. And there we go. And I'm going to add my arrows. Now, is a horizontal line a function? Well, we just talked about that, and the answer is yes. Okay. Yes, this is a function. Okay, so number 2, they gave me the x. It's only one variable. I know that no matter what, x is going to be 3. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a negative, 0, and a positive. Okay, so 3, negative 3, 3, 0, and 3, 3. And by now I can tell that this is going to give me a vertical line. Okay, so I'm going to connect the dots. make my vertical line. And what we just discussed is a vertical line. Hey, what happened to my line? Oh, gross. Now I gotta do it all over again. Come on. Okay, so I'll draw my vertical line again. What's going on with you, pen? You don't want to work right. So there's my vertical line. And is that a function? That's what we kind of talked about ahead of there, but no, not a function. All right, number 3. Is that horizontal or vertical? Well, if we look at number 1, y equals just the y. This is a horizontal. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in -4. And then I'm going to pick -3, 0, and 3. Okay, remember, you guys can pick any points. They don't have to be the exact same as mine. Normally we would do 5, but these are a little bit smaller. So there we go. And now I'm going to draw my horizontal line using my straight edge. And remember to add the arrows. And is a horizontal line a function? Yes. All right, number 4. Look to see what variable they gave you. Just like number 2, we know that this is going to be a vertical line. So -2, -2, -2, -0, positive, and let's go ahead and graph. So -2, -3, -2, 0, and -2, positive 3. Go ahead and draw your vertical line. And we know that a vertical line is not a function. So that answer would be no. Okay, so I know you guys are getting the hang of this by now, but I do want to pay close attention to number 5 and number 6 just because they look a little bit weird, okay? We know it's y, I know it's going to be horizontal, this is always going to be 0. We talked about picking our 3 points. Okay, but when we graph these, where is it? Yeah, these are all on the, these are on the x-axis. That's weird, okay? It just looks weird. Make sure that when you're graphing these that you really show us where that line is, okay? It's easier to see on mine since I'm using a different color, but really make sure your arrows stick out so we can tell that there is a line on top of that. So is this a function? And the answer is yes. Okay. And it's the same with number 6. I see that it's only an x. We know that if it's only an x, it's going to be a vertical line. I've got -3, 0, and 3. So it's 0, -3. I'm down here. 0, 0, and 0, 3. This one is on the y-axis. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm making sure that I can clearly see my line right there. And I'm making my arrows as well. Okay? All right. Ooh, review. So we're talking about domain and range. Okay? Remember that when they tell us the domain, all right, that's when we have to simplify. But when they tell us the range, that's when we have to solve. Okay? So if they tell us the x, we simplify. If they tell us the function, the g of x, or the y, that's when we have to solve. Okay? So let's do it together. Now, we already know what our function is. So I have 3 over 4 times x minus 7, and we're plugging in negative 4. So we have 3 over 4 times negative 4, which gives us negative 3, in case you didn't know. So we have negative 3, and negative 3 minus 7 gives us negative 10. So if I'm looking at for function form, I would say g of negative 4 gives us negative 10. And then I'm just going to plot that right there. There's negative 10. And then my point, negative 4, negative 10, is all the way down there. Okay, so my next one, 0. So we got g of 0 equals 3 over 4 times 0 minus 7. I love it when they give us 0 to plug in, because 3/4 times 0 is 0. That kind of cancels out, and all we're left with is negative 7. Okay, so g of 0 is negative 7. So I'm going to 0, negative 7, and graph my point. Okay, so now it's different because now they are giving us the y, that g of x. So I have to find x. So when I have to find x, I am solving. So I have negative 4 equals 3 over 4x minus 7. And then we've got our line here. So I'm doing inverse operations. I have to add 7 to both sides. Negative 4 plus 7 is 3. So I have 3 equals 3/4 x. And to get the x by itself, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and the right side cancels out. So x equals 4. Okay, so at 4, negative 4, there's my other point. And now we just have one more to go. Okay, so when negative 1 is y, we go through and just set it up. They told us the y, so I have to find the x, which means we are solving. Negative 1 plus 6, sorry, negative 1 plus 7 is 6, Mr. Grice. Sorry, told you the answer. And then do the same thing, multiply by the reciprocal. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay? And remember, you can always do this in your calculator. 4/3 times 6 is going to give you 8. So my answer is 8 equals x. Okay, so, sorry. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to write in 8. Oh, that looked really weird. Okay. And then at 8, I'm at negative 1. So now that I have all that, I can draw this, and this is a linear function right there. It's linear because it makes a straight line. Okie dokie, artichoke. Let's go ahead and do the cumulative review together as well. Okay? So for number 1, it says plot a point in plot point A in quadrant 3. Okay? So remember, we've got quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and then quadrant 4. It doesn't matter where you plot it, okay? So this is quadrant 3, there's A, and I like to write down where that is. That is at negative 3, negative 2. Okay? Now I'm going to plot another point because it says plot B in quadrant 1, anywhere in quadrant 1. So there's my B, and B is at the point 4, comma 1. Okay? And so that is us labeling each point, okay? Also, when you label them, make sure that you write the letter that they're asking you to, okay? For 2, it says find the value of f of -1. Remember that that is the x. So I'm going to go to -1, and we can draw a line right here. And there we go. That's the point, -1, 2. So when f is -1, our answer is 2. Okay, so next one, using the function f of x equals 3/4 x minus 7, find the value of x. So what is x? Well, this is just like we were doing, okay? On the last example, we have to, on the other page, we have to figure out what x is to make this a true statement, okay? So this is where we have to solve. I have to add 7 to both sides. -1 plus 6, 7. I said the answer again is 6. I think I did that during the video too. Okay, and now to get the x by itself, I have to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so 4/3 times 6 is actually what we just did, and we get 8. So 8 equals x. All right, here I would say that x equals 8. Okay, number 4. Using the function, I'm just going to highlight our 2 functions. I have g of x, and h of x. So the first one says to take h of x, and I'm going to subtract it with g of x. All right, so we always plug in using parentheses, so I have -2x squared plus 8x minus 1, and I am subtracting that with 3x squared minus 10x plus 2. Okay, so I want to get them, first let's just double check, there was my blue and there was my yellow. I want to get them out of parentheses, so I would distribute a +1, which doesn't change anything. But now I'm going to distribute a negative back here, which means all of my signs change. Okay? And now to get to my final answer, I need to combine my like terms. Okay? So I have -2x squared minus 3x squared because I need to put this in standard form. So the highest variable goes first, so we get -5x squared. I have a +8 plus 10, which gives me +18x. And then the last one, we have -1 minus 2. Well, -1 minus 2 is -3. Okay, now for B, I notice that this -6 is out front, which means I'm going to multiply g of x times -6. So g of x was the 3x squared minus 10x plus 2. Okay, that's my g of x function. And I'm going to take this -6 and multiply it. So -6 times 3 is -18x squared. -6 times -10 would be a +60x. And then -6 times 2 is a -12. Okay, graph the following lines. So I've got 2 lines that I have to graph. Now, if you need to use a table to graph these, please do so. Okay, I know that my first one, x equals 8. I'm going to go through and plug in 8 for all of those. And then I can pick any y point that I want. So I'm just going to do the same as I did on the other side, -3, 0, and 3. And then let's just go ahead and graph that right now. Okay, so I've got over here, 8, we've got positive 3, 0, and negative 3. Go ahead and draw your line. And now some of you guys might be getting pretty good at this. You might just be able to be like, well, look, Mr. Grice, I know that this is negative 6, negative 6, negative 6, and no matter what I do, I can go straight to negative 6 and I can draw my line, and there we go. But here's the key thing. Where do these lines intersect? Okay, so when they intersect, so I'm going to do this in red so it's easier to see, that's going to be at the point 8, negative 6. Okay, last one. Identify the domain and range and tell me if this is a function or not. All right, so I'm just going to go through each one of those points. I want you to do it. We're going to pause the video, tell me all of the points, and list the domain and the range. Okay, pause the video, and good luck. Okay, so those were all of my points. And the next thing we're going to do is write the domain. The domain is all of the x values in order from least to greatest. So we go negative 4, negative 3, negative 1, and 3. I do not have to rewrite it, okay, if a number is twice. And then my range, once again, in order from least to greatest, would be negative 2, negative 1. Let's see, after negative 2, negative 1, we have 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so is this a function, yes or no? Hopefully you're shouting out, no, Mr. Grice, okay? I just drew the vertical line right there. Since it fails the vertical line test, it is not a function. Okay, so I'd say no, because it fails the vertical line test. And if you want to be really specific, you can list those 2 points. The 2 points were 3, 4, and 3, negative 2. Alright guys, well that's it for Algebra Unit 2.4 Notes and the little cumulative review. If you have any questions, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. Otherwise, this is Mr. Grice signing off. Thanks for watching.